Well, kia ora, everybody. Welcome to this evening. I am very thankful that you're here tonight, and I'm very excited to share with you the information that we have. I'm going to go ahead and just go back into sharing my screen, and we're going to kick it off tonight and get going here. So we are recording tonight. You can keep your video and your audio off for your privacy. This recording will be available for a limited time after this meeting tonight. So thank you so much for coming. I know you've probably all had a busy work day. So off we go. Kia ora tātou, no mai haere mai ki tēnei hui whakahirahira. Welcome everybody to this important hui. Ko Karen Workman tōku ingoa, ko taku mahi ki Resale Royalties Aotearoa toi Huarau. My name is Karen Workman, and I'm here today representing Resale Royalties Aotearoa toi Huarau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to welcome you all to today's informational session about the scheme that comes into effect on December 1st, the Resale Royalty for Visual Artists Act of 2023. Today's session is an introductory overview of the scheme and how it will operate. And we'd like to introduce you to Resale Royalties Aotearoa, or RRA, as the appointed administrator of this new legislation. In an upcoming town hall, not this one, but in another one, we'll be answering questions that are a bit more pertinent to art market professionals. So if that's you, if you're a business that deals with art, please keep an eye on our social media and on that website to register for that meeting. As we move toward December 1st, we're going to be adding information and resources that help us navigate this resale royalty scheme. Today, what we're doing is providing context and elementary information about what artist resale royalty covers and how it will be administered. So welcome everybody. I'd like to mihi too and introduce Sam Irvin, who is the Chief Executive of Copyright Licensing, just to say a few words. Over to you, Sam.
Kia ora tātou, ko Sam Irvin tāku ingoa, ko mana whakahaere CLNZ a Resale Royalty Aotearoa toi Huarau. Hello, and thank you, Karen. It's great to be here with everyone. I'm Sam Irvin. I'm the CEO of Copyright Licensing New Zealand and also Resale Royalty Aotearoa toi Huarau. So I'll just give you a bit of a background to who we are and how we've got to be where we are. So CLNZ is a not-for-profit organisation. Our shareholders are the Publishers Association of New Zealand and the New Zealand Society of Authors. We have a board made up of those people and also independent directors. And we also have a visual arts advisor, Yolanda Hickman. We also have a visual arts working group that includes Yolanda and a number of other people. So we've been representing and advocating for New Zealand creators since 1988. So it's quite a long time. And we more recently began representing visual artists through our auction house licensing scheme. Last year, we took part in the contestable process that came out of, or as part of the legislation that Karen will talk to soon about, which was part of the free trade agreement with the EU and the UK. And part of that was the requirement for an artist resale royalty scheme. So the Ministry of Culture and Heritage ran a contestable process to appoint a collective management organisation, which is what we are, to administer that program for government. We went through the process and subsequently were chosen. And I guess the reason for that is we have significant experience in collecting and distributing royalties to original creators. And through that, I guess, there's a confidence in these processes were built up over nearly 40 years and the ability to be able to deliver them in a timely manner. So after our appointment by the minister, we set about, and that was in May, so not that long ago, we set about to create a new company, Resale Royalties Aotearoa toi Huarau, and start developing processes and implementing those in preparation for the launch on December the 1st. The most visible part of that, obviously, is our website, our logo, and our name. We're very pleased with that process has gone. And just a couple of points of interest that as artists and designers, the font we're using is a Klimt font, so a New Zealand font. And Karen will talk a little bit more about the creation of Toi Huarau and its meaning to us and the process we went through to develop that quite recently. So back to you again, Karen.
Thank you, Sam. Tēnā koe, ngā mihi ki te kororo. Thank you for explaining the whakapapa and the kaupapa of RRA. I'm now going to explain the scheme, and then what we're going to do is answer some of your pre-submitted questions. You're welcome to put other questions in the chat. If there's time, we will tackle them. If there's not time, or if the questions are we could be answered on a different platform, I'll let you know. We may answer them in an email or in a follow-up session, or you will see them on the website as FAQs. Just again, if you're an art market professional, if you've just joined us, if you're an art market professional, we will be running a session very similar to this for you to focus on questions that are more significant to that business side of things. So just keep an eye out on our social media and visit our website to register your interest for that. Now, the idea of resale royalty in New Zealand isn't new. Some of you are aware of, and I know some of you were involved when it was first introduced in about 2008. And I just want to acknowledge that the impact of that pioneering. Unfortunately, it didn't make too much progress at the time, and the idea was reintroduced as a potential amendment to the Copyright Act around 2018. Now, the Copyright Act review that was underway at that time was suspended during along with a lot of other events of 2020. And so was talk of a resale royalty scheme that was suspended also. However, here we are now with new legislation coming to play on the back of that free trade agreement, as Sam said already. And as part of that agreement, New Zealand committed to establishing an artist resale royalty scheme, and this is the scheme that's coming into effect. Just a quick reminder that the sale of artwork does not usually include the sale of copyright. In other words, when an artist sells a painting, they usually retain the copyrights associated with it. That means that while someone else owns the physical work, the artist keeps the right to make copies and use that work for their own gain. Because artist resale royalty is about the resale of an artwork, the ownership of copyright in a work is not affected by this scheme. So I'm not going to talk any more about copyright today, but if you want to know more, CLNZ does have a lot of resources, and we have some workshops where you can learn more. In essence, what the resale royalty scheme does, or what this legislation does, is it gives eligible visual artists the right to receive a royalty payment whenever there's a qualifying resale of their original work. So I'm going to explain that further. I just want to start with a very short background. The concept of artist resale royalty has its beginnings in France with this painting right here, The Angelus or L'Angelus by Jean-Francois Millet. It was originally commissioned, and then it was first sold for 1,000 francs in 1860. This painting was resold after Millet's death in 1889 for a whopping 553,000 francs during a bidding war between the Louvre and the American Art Association. Now, Millet's family were penniless at the time of the resale, and after a public outcry and petitioning for protective legislation for artists, the French introduced droit de suite, or artist resale right, in about 1920. Since that time, many countries have added that legislation, and the 2021 census of resale right throughout the world showed that 104 countries had resale right in their legislations, including 30 out of the 38 OECD countries, and we joined those ranks this year. So this is the context in which the ARR scheme applies. The artist creates a work and sells it to buyer A. Sometime later, buyer A sells that work to buyer B. Now, this sale is a resale, and clearly there could be any number of resales over time. Now, the art could be listed and sold through an art market professional, for example, an auction house, a dealer gallery, or a gallery, or perhaps it's a sale that doesn't involve an art market professional. In any case, every sale after the first sale is a resale. Now, for the scheme to apply, the resale price must be at least $2,000. 5% of the resale value is deposited with Resale Royalties Aotearoa, RRA, as the royalty payment. RRA is going to retain 1% of those percentage points for administration, and the other 4% gets passed on through to the original artist, or if they're deceased, to their estate. Now, it's not every artist that's eligible, though, so let's have a look and see what that entails. To be eligible, artists must be New Zealand citizens or residents. They can also be a citizen or a resident of a reciprocating country that also has an artist resale royalty scheme. Now, we've got reciprocal agreement negotiations underway with the UK and Australia right now, and we're anticipating an expansion of reciprocal agreements with other countries in the future. If the original artist is deceased and it's within 50 years from the end of the calendar year of their death, successors who have inherited the right will also be eligible to receive the royalty. Successors also have to be either citizens or residents of New Zealand or a reciprocating country. In addition, for the scheme to apply, the work must meet this definition of an original visual artwork. Now, this wording that you see on the screen here is taken directly from the Act. For clarity, I just want to point out that the artwork does not have to be a cultural expression of Māori or Pacific peoples. However, it specifically includes cultural work when it's expressed in these different art forms. So if you have any work that fits into these categories, whether or not it's a cultural expression, it qualifies as an original visual artwork. And you can see here that the range of visual artwork specified in the Resale Royalty for Visual Artists Act is quite wide. I'll just let you read that through a little bit. However, what is excluded or what is not included are buildings, dramatic and musical works, and that's dramatic and musical as specified by the Copyright Act. So that means scripts, screenplays, scores, other musical notation, and so on. And it doesn't include literary works unless that written work contains visual artwork. Importantly, original means that the artist created or authorized the creation of the artwork, and that it is one of a limited number of copies. What we mean by limited is that the artist has deliberately chosen to only create a certain number of that work. Okay, so let's say we've got eligible artists and original visual artwork that is included. So now let's talk about what qualifying resale means, because that's the third part of the how the scheme applies here. So there are two situations under which a qualifying resale can occur. In both situations, the artwork's been resold for $2,000 or more. Our first situation right here is a professional qualifying resale. So if at least one of the parties involved in the resale is an art market professional, like a dealer, a gallery, an auctioneer, or perhaps someone has hired an art consultant, or someone else involved in the process is professionally engaged in the art market, or if at least one of the parties are part of the GLAM sector, meaning a publicly funded art gallery, library, archive, or museum that collects and displays artworks, then it's a professional qualifying resale. I'd just like to take a second to acknowledge those businesses. The expertise and experience of our art market professionals is a huge factor in setting standards, practices, and prices in the art market. And their influence in the valuation and resale of artworks is significant, and those sales do impact the ability of artists' work to increase in value over time. In a professional qualifying resale, it's the obligation of the art market professionals to report the sale to RRA, and they are obligated to pay the resale royalty to RRA. I'd just like to thank all of our industry professionals for working with us to make the scheme operate as smoothly as possible. We appreciate you. And the second type of qualifying resale is what we call a voluntary qualifying resale. So if the resale transaction doesn't include any art market professionals or anyone from the GLAM organizations, but the parties that are involved decide and agree that it's going to be a qualifying resale, then that's what makes it a voluntary qualifying resale. So in this situation, the parties involved make and put 3 decisions in writing. They're going to agree that this is a qualifying resale. They'll agree on a royalty percentage, which is any amount they choose, and they will agree whose responsibility it is to provide the information and the payment to RRA. So that's our 2 situations in terms of the qualifying resale. I think it's now a good time to make a distinction between these 2 schemes: auction house licensing and artist resale royalty. As Sam already indicated, Copyright Licensing New Zealand has for decades issued licenses to organisations and institutions around Aotearoa. This helps to administrate compliance with copyright law. It allows greater usage in terms of printed material like books and other publications. And through that licensing scheme, royalties are paid back to authors on the use and reproduction of their work. So the auction house licensing scheme works in the same way. Under the auction house licensing scheme, auction houses pay for a license in order to reproduce artists' work in their catalogues. And those catalogues are then made available in print and online. As the works that are used are reported to auction houses or reported by auction houses to CLNZ, artists get a royalty for the appearance and the reproduction of that artwork. And that process is managed by Copyright Licensing New Zealand. Artist resale royalty is managed by RRA, and the operations are separate from CLNZ. So while auction houses are involved in both programs, auction house licensing compensates the reproduction of an artwork, and artist resale royalty covers the resale of the artwork, and the administration is distinct. So focusing back on resale royalty now, no matter whether it's a voluntary or professional qualifying resale, these are the steps that must be taken. The sale must be reported in writing, and the royalty must be deposited with RRA within 60 days. When RRA has the report and the royalty has been deposited, we will contact the artist to send them their portion of the royalty. And we say here in a timely manner because sometimes there are challenges with finding accurate contact information for an artist, and especially sometimes an artist's estate. However, we do, like at CLNZ, we do have an experienced and dedicated team of data researchers whose purpose is to track down right holders or artists in order to distribute those royalties. When they've been contacted, the artist can accept or decline all or a part of that royalty payment. If the artist declines, the royalty goes straight to the cultural fund, and that will be established to support and contribute to the careers of visual artists. With every future resale of that artwork, the artist can choose to accept or decline the royalty. In other words, declining one royalty payment doesn't mean that future resale royalties are also declined. If we can't find the artist, that money is going to be kept in reserve for 6 years. If 6 years passes and it goes unclaimed or it has been declined, that money goes to the cultural fund. And as Sam said, that is where that's what we will use to help support visual artists and the careers of their careers. Okay. The best way to make sure that those royalties get to you in a timely manner is to register as an artist or a successor on the website here at resaleroyalties.co.nz. This is also the best way to stay up to date if you're an art market professional or in the glam sector. We're committed to making sure you have the clear and current information and that you have support in this process because it's new for everybody. Even if you don't think this legislation affects you today, it's something that may apply to you in the future. So we just want to make sure that everyone has the tools and information needed to be in compliance with the legislation and with the regulations. So what you can see as we get closer to December 1st, or what you can expect to see, is an increase in functionality on this website. There will be more information. There will be answers to FAQs and other resources. We will have a few short videos that highlight some of our key art market professionals as well. When you get to the page that you see on the screen in front of you, you'll be guided to fill out a short form. You may be required to upload proof of identity, such as driver's license, or if you have questions about what is visible and around what is being asked for and why, please just see the privacy policy on that website. It's only going to take you a few minutes, but you'll be sure if you register that you're in the best place to stay informed. And if you're an artist, you're in the best place to receive royalties as the scheme rolls out. If you'd like to read the legislation and regulations for yourself, you can find them on the New Zealand legislation website, or you can search these titles. Now, we've had quite a few pre-submitted questions, and that's the place that we're up to now. We're going to do our best to answer those questions. Thank you for sending them in already. And as I said, just a reminder, if you're an art market professional, the questions that we answer today may not meet the questions that you've asked, and we're going to keep those for a different session. So just keep an eye out for our social media. And in case we don't get to your question tonight, please do visit the website and look at the FAQ section. There's a lot of information there, and a lot of work is being done to answer questions as clearly as possible. So I'm just going to go now to a few of the questions that we got here. And Sam, maybe you can help me answer a few of them.
Sure.
First one here, do you have to register with ARR before a sale occurs? I'll get this one. No, you don't. You don't have to register before the sale occurs, but we strongly recommend it. It's beneficial for you to do so because your contact information will be accurate, and that's the main thing there. You'll be informed. If you haven't registered and we want to send you a royalty, you'll be invited to sign up so that you can receive your payment when we find you. Sam, maybe you can take this one here. How does ARR receive the details of the artist whose work was sold, and is it public record?
Yeah, so good question. Artist resale royalty, so resale royalty Aotearoa as well, does receive the detail of the artist, because we obviously need to have that so we can pay the royalty. That information is only seen by us and is not publicly available. We have part of the requirement from the ministry of our agreement with them and with the regulation is that we provide rolled up numbers of artists and figures, but not individual artist names. So we also understand that if there is a request under OIA around who has received monies, we can decline that for privacy reasons. So we believe there won't be any situation where the artist or that person selling the art, probably as importantly, is made available publicly.
Great, thank you. Can more than one person receive a share of the resale royalty? Well, yes, more than one person can receive a share of the royalty. If, for example, you've got multiple artists who have contributed to a piece of artwork and they have a written agreement in which they are collaborators with shares in the artwork. Another example might be if they are successors who have inherited shares in an artwork. So if you've got multiple beneficiaries to your estate, then they can all receive a share of that resale royalty as well. Sam, how is the sales price or resale value calculated?
Yeah, so very simply, under the legislation, it is the hammer price, so the price at which the work is sold before any other costs are accounted for, so commissions, etc. If the sale is completed, for example, after an auction, then it will be the realised value of that. So once again, without any costs or commissions taken from it.
Great, and I think there's more information on that on our FAQ page as well. This was an interesting question. How does our resale royalty percentage compare to other countries? And that's a really good question because every country has their own legislation and regulations, so it's really hard to draw a proper comparison. It's really comparing apples to oranges. Legislation, we're talking about specific law. Regulations are the details of how it will work in practice. And you'll find that if you look at other countries, it's all over the place. So it's all of these sort of decisions are under government. These are all government decisions, not something we have control over. So yeah, so we really can't compare how we do to other countries. Sam, I'll have you get the next one here.
Sure. Can I donate my royalty to the cultural fund? Yeah, so I think as Karen detailed before in that process diagram, you can't decline your right, but if you receive a royalty and wish to make that available to other artists through the cultural fund, then we would welcome that. We already run a very successful cultural fund for writers, authors and publishers and we distribute that each year through 4 funding models and also supporting things like the creative writing courses at universities. So we believe this would be an excellent avenue for those artists that don't wish to receive the royalty to contribute to and to give back to the visual arts sector.
Great. I think that's cool. And Sam, maybe you want to get this last question too?
Yeah, how does resale royalty apply when a dealer gallery already has an agreement with an artist for resales of their work? And we understand, that this does happen, and the challenge here is that under the Act, the royalty is payable wherever an art market professional is involved. So I guess simply looking at the legislation, they would need to pay the royalty.
Great, thank you. Rosa, do we have any other questions that we can answer right now? I think we've got a little bit of time.
Kia ora, Karen. No, not at this stage, but if there are questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and if we can answer them, we'll do our best to.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about my answer to that, as in they will pay. The liability is shared between obviously the seller and the art market professional. So it's not necessarily, I'm not saying the dealer will be paying, but that liability is shared between those two parties.
That's great. Yeah, great clarification there. Okay, if we don't have any, we do have a question.
Oh, you can see it. Yes. So the question is, how will a cultural fund be administered and allocated?
Yeah, good question. If you go to our website, you will, this is copyright licensing, you'll see there's a policy around how our cultural fund is administered there. We haven't yet developed the one for Resale Royalty Aotearoa, but it's on our work plan. So certainly by the time we launch, we will have that and it'll be publicly available. The way we do it with our cultural fund is we obviously have set up it to be administered by us, but with a clear set of objectives to support and strengthen the sector. And we have independent judges who give those awards and grants. So you can there's a policy around that as well, around how long you can serve and how things like conflicts of interest are managed. So yeah, it'll be a very comprehensive policy around how the cultural fund will be administered, and who decides what the awards are and who gets the grants and awards. Yeah, actually, I'd also just add to that, just because I've been looking at it today. One of the things that we find with our cultural fund is we also ask that those who do receive funds from that give us a report on how that's been used. So have they delivered to what they said they would? And so there's a progress and a completion report. And we'd be envisaging the same for the cultural fund from Artist Resale Royalty.
Great, that's a great question. Does anybody else have a question?
Yes, there is another question that's come in, which is to clarify 2.5% paid by seller and 2.5% by the auction house.
Is that the question?
That is the question.
The question is, how much is paid?
The question is to clarify 2.5% paid by seller and 2.5% by the auction house. I am expecting that's with regards to the 5%.
Yeah, that's right. No, there's nothing in the legislation or the regulation that says how that will be split. Yeah.
Another question coming in. I assume the scheme will apply to limited edition prints created by the artist during their lifetime, but not to other lower quality reproductions like posters, etc.
I think that is our understanding of it. Dan, if you have a different opinion, then jump in there with this one. But it is to apply to limited edition prints. That would be the first application of the resale royalty. I think you are correct.
Yeah, it's Daniel Watterson here, Contracts and Policy Manager at CLNZ. So the Act applies to copies that are created by the artist or authorized by the artist. So you can see there's a distinction there. If copies were to be made by some other person, but if the copy itself is created by or authorized by the artist, but remembering what Karen said, the key there, that it has to be part of a limited run. So those are your qualifiers, that it's limited and that it's authorized by the artist. So I hope that clarifies.
Great, thank you. Any other questions at the moment?
Not at this stage, but feel free to reach out to us online via Contact Us form at any time.
Great, thank you. Well then, I would thank you for all your excellent questions. We did get a lot. I'd like to leave you with this translation for Toi Huarau, the name we've been given. It was inspired by and based on the concept of mutual benefit for the artist and the art market, and importantly, a practice of providing legacy value for the artist's family. So Toi Huarau, the art of many benefits for many people. I'd like to thank everybody again for being present tonight. Thank you to my colleagues for answering the questions, and thank you all for coming to the meeting today. I appreciate the time that you've taken to be here, either live or watching the replay. It's been our honor to host you and to share this information. Obviously, there is more to come as the scheme comes into effect. So I do encourage you to go to the website, register and follow us on social media so you can stay up to date and in the know. If that's everything today, no other things from anybody? Nope. Okay. Well then, hurinoa e te whare, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, mā te wā, and have a good night. And over to you, Rosa, to stop the recording and do all the other stuff.